Hello, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us as we got our audio and video started. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully good. Just a reminder, we do have a chat going on, so please let's all, open up the floor, get talking today. So just as a quick intro, I'm Lilith. I'm going to be monitoring the chat and jumping in to answer any questions. We also have the lovely MJ with us here who will be jumping in and answering questions too, the queen of schedules. So that's going to be perfect. You'll see her jump in. We also have Paule there and Jose's cute little dog in the background joining, making a guest appearance.
Yeah, don't mind her. She'll be dropping in on the conversation, but she's monitoring the streets apparently, so taking care of my safety.
Perfect. We gotta have somebody there taking care of business. If folks want to jump into the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, I'm joining from Reno, Nevada. So it's 9 a.m. my time. We got a break in the weather today, but we have been having blizzards. There has been a huge amount of snow. Here from Lisbon, 5 p.m. Yep, a little bit later your time. Thanks for joining at the end of the day. Quebec, amazing. Alabama, I feel like it's probably a little bit warmer in Alabama today than here in Reno. Hi to Quebec as well. Poland, oh, William, thank you for joining from Poland. Amazing. Snowy here in the UK. Okay, I'm not alone, Chris. We're in this together in the snow. Perfect. 54 degrees in Alabama. Yeah, warmer. Still not spring officially, but a little bit better than I think, we're at 25 here in Reno. All righty. So it's been a few minutes. Feel free to continue on in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We'll go through some logistics of how we'll get started today and kind of move through our webinar. And then we will go ahead and pass it over to our lovely presenters from there. All righty. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so you should be seeing a time shift kind of word mark here. Yep, okay, we're good to go. So a couple of things to cover. First of all, please do ask questions in the chat. We like to make this interactive if we possibly can. So we're jumping into forecast and schedule today. So maybe there'll be a lot of questions, maybe not. If they come up, let us know. Second, there will be a recording sent right after we wrap up. It may take a couple of minutes to process, but you'll get an email and you'll be able to view this on demand at any time. For all of those tuning in from the future, hello, glad you're joining us on demand. And then we have another webinar coming up in 2 weeks. So the 23rd, we're going to be digging into tips and tricks to really reach specific goals. So we also want to hear your different use cases and really what is going to drive that conversation from all of you as we dig in. So we can look forward to that on our webinars page. You can go ahead and get signed up for that and reserve your seat. And then last but not least, all questions that we don't cover today, we will stop and kind of go through questions from time to time. But if there's anything we don't get to, please send those along and the support team can jump in and help out. And just an email to support@timeshift.com will do the trick on that. Now, today, to cover the basics of forecast and schedule, we have the lovely Paule and Jose joining us. So, we're going to run through kind of how to set up the forecast and schedule, adjusting it for accuracy, and then really just kind of some best practices on scheduling. Schedules can be pretty complex at times. So, how we can use time shift to really iron those things out and make it really easy to manage day to day. So, with all that being said, I'll go ahead and stop sharing and let one of our lovely presenters jump in and take it away.
Go, Paule.
So I'll be the one to take away. And so, hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So I'm also tuning in from close to Lisbon, Portugal, Seychelles. It's not Seychelles, but Seychelles. I wish, maybe one day. And so my name is Paula Matkevichuta. I have been with TimeShift for quite some time. I probably was one of the folks that actually saw this forecast come to life a couple of years ago. And so today I'll take you through the forecast, what's there to know, and why it's important. So I think that's a great point to really start, why the forecast is important for your business. So first and foremost, having the visibility into your incoming volume and required staffing way in advance will really help plan and budget for the demands that you have today and in the future as well. So to think about it simply, if you have some commitments when it comes to SLAs, or if you want to improve the customer experience to your customers, you will really need to understand how much volume you're going to get, right, based on the historical data, and how many people you need to do all that work. On the other hand, why the forecast is important is for you to really evaluate. You might be overstaffed and have unnecessary costs. So I think these are the two main outliers why you should spend time to really understand how the forecast works and how to really leverage it for your business. So without further ado, let me share my screen and I'll walk you through it. And where are we now? So bear with me. I think something is retrograding. So it will take me a moment. Let me know if you can see our forecast. Yes, we can. Some thumbs up. Anyone? Yes. Two.
We're good.
Okay. We got it. We got contact. Alrighty. So before touching base on the forecast, I really wanted to take a quick moment to outline the most important piece when it comes to everything else in TimeShift. The forecasting, the scheduling, the reporting, the real-time monitoring. This is what we call work streams. To find any feature in TimeShift, you can use our handy-dandy hotkeys. So with Command K, you just type in the name of the feature and you'll get there. So here we are. Work streams are, as I call it, it's the backbone for everything else in TimeShift. So with work streams, you're really segmenting the workload that you're going to get. So traditionally, you can think of work streams as the basic channels that we have in Zendesk, the tickets, the chats, the voice. But with TimeShift, we really give you the opportunity to granularly define what's important to you. Maybe that would be a VIP type of tickets. Maybe that could be a specifically billing tickets that you wanted to forecast and schedule for and report for. So you can do that with TimeShift and our workstream feature. Here you will find some 3 golden rules for creating the work streams. They're also available on our Help Center article. And I'll let you go through it. But yeah, there are some specific rules that we really want to make sure that you take the time to understand to better optimize the work streams. Now, I'll quickly go over how you can leverage it and how you would set it up. So let me close the golden rules. So you can name it, you can give a color to it, and then basically you would set the specific conditions. The minimum condition that you will need is to select the contact via type, ticket, chat, or voice, the traditional ones in Zendesk. Then you can select additional via type, select or unselect certain via types from here, from the drop-down list available. And then you can really define specific parameters for the workstream. You can think about these parameters as if you would be setting a Zendesk view or Zendesk trigger. So you can really select either a group, tag, brand, or form, and you can select either from all or any conditions to define that type of work. You can quickly run a preview match for all the tickets in the last 30 days to see how many of such tickets really matched the conditions that you define here. Once you're happy with what you've built, you can then actually go ahead and assign the users to the workstream. This will be important for the segment that Jose is going to walk you through for the schedule, because in this step, you will define who from your team are able to work on tier 1 tickets. But I'll let Jose to get into that later on. So once you're happy with your schedules, you can go back into the forecast. With the work streams, you can go back to the forecast. It's 5 p.m. here, people. So yeah, and I had not enough coffee, let's say. So coming back to the forecast, you will notice straight away that the forecast has kind of 3 different sections in the forecast view, right? So the one on the left, you will see the list of all of your work streams that have been created. You can group certain work streams, just as I have here, into a folder. Why would that be important? So for example, if you take a look into a singular work stream, you can see the forecast and the required staffing for that singular work stream. But if you wanted to take a look at the specific either line of business or maybe understanding how overall your emails, email forecast will look like, you can drop them into a folder. Or if you wanted to, you can simply ungroup it and it will look, and you can see a full list of work streams individually. So a couple of things here. You will notice that some of the work streams, they're kind of grayed out. So you can hide a work stream if you click on this icon here, or you can show it. So it will be available here in the chart. So let's hide this one. And you will notice that some of them, they have this additional chart added. So here you will see that basically that means that this specific workstream has an inbound volume adjustment, which we will touch in a moment. This one here, it also has a inbound volume adjustment, average handle time important, and historical outlier excluded. We will get to all of those in a moment. Few additional things. If you hover on a workstream, you will see those 3 dots to the left. If you click, you can change the color. You can recalculate the forecast for this specific workstream. You will trigger that manually. And there is also an option for you to import historical volume. Let's say you're completely new to Zendesk, so you had another system that you were working for years with, and now you're moving over into Zendesk, and you might want to bring that historical context over with you. So you can easily import that historical volume in here in our time shift forecast as well. And you will have to do that for all of the individual work streams. Or if you wanted to, you can also, let's say, while making the move from one system to Zendesk, you might have the transition period, right, where there's some testing and so forth and moving the volumes back and forth. And maybe you wanted to not to really take into consideration certain time period while you were still testing Zendesk. So what you can do is you can simply select to omit certain Zendesk data prior to a certain date. So you can select that here. To import the volume into time shift forecast, all you will need to do is fill in the template with all the information that you have from a previous system and just simply drop it into time shift, and we will start crunching numbers. Before I go forward, let me just quickly pause and see if there's any questions whatsoever up until this point. Checking the chat.
So we haven't had any come into the chat so far. We may have. Okay. Yep. We're all clear. But folks, remember the chat is there for those questions. So pass them along as they come up.
Thank you. So I'm doing the fine job. I'm just being very clear. So that's good. All righty, let's move forward. So now let's take a look at the chart itself. Let me see, maybe to have a little bit cleaner data. Yeah, let's bring that forward. So one thing I wanted to mention, when you start looking at the data itself, once you run the recalculation for a certain work stream, you will notice a little tiny dot here at some point. So here, basically in time shift, we're saying that up until this point in time, everything else to the left is actually historical information. And you will see when I hover on it, it even says historical, versus whatever is on the right is actually already a forecast. So from this point forward, we're already forecasting the numbers for each of the visible work streams right now. If we go into the future, for example, for the following week, you will be able to navigate back and forth throughout the dates here. Here as well, you can select to view only a certain day to see how the forecast looks like for that particular day. In here, you will have a 15-minute increments to actually tell you what's going to happen throughout that day. If you move into the weekly view, you will see by every hour, the forecast for each of the work stream every hour. If you go into a monthly view, we will show you a weekly projections. And then if you go into a year, you will see, in the month, you will see 1 day projection. And in the year, you will see the weekly values. Now, some of you might have already noticed a dashed line here. And if you look closely, it says forecast. That's a funny little word. And what it basically means that instead of having a forecast calculation for the moment from, let's say, May for the chat and from, end of May through June for tier 1, we are projecting what we call a forecast. That simply means that for time shifts forecast, ideally, we would need at least 2 years worth of data. With the 2 years worth of data, we're really able to tell what actually is a pattern year to year versus to what are just one-off events. So in this case, basically what we're saying that we simply don't have 2 years worth of data, but we're still considering the information that we have to project what's going to happen in the future. So just a simple indication for you. And this is our demo account. So we spun it up some time ago, not 2 years ago. So that's why we're seeing this information. I hope that's clear for everyone. And every time, just one additional thing here, every time you go back to forecast and run recalculate, it will include all of the historical information up until this point. So we will be able to project more accurately based on that detail, and the forecast will eventually disappear. Thanks. And moving on to some additional details here as well. So here you will see at the top the inbound volume. Just under the chart, if you click on the table, you will see all that information in a handy dandy table, which you can actually export into a CSV as well. Now, so once we know the volumes that we project for the future, the next important piece is to really understand, so how many folks you will need in your team to work on that volume. So you will see here that once we hover on all of the details, how many people you will need for each individual work stream as well. So we have for billing 10, for chat 3, tier 1. So tier 1, 4. Sorry, it's the afternoon. So once you hover through it, you will see how many people you will need. And exactly the same as we had in the inbound volume chart and table, you will be able to export that information into CSV. Now, another important part that we have to cover is all of the options that we have here on the right-hand side. So with the work stream, with each individual work stream, you will be able to also adjust certain volumes. Let's say the forecast says that on Saturday, let me just go into a monthly view. let's say the forecast says that on March 20th, we're actually expecting this certain amount of volume, right? But maybe on March 20th, we're also planning a marketing campaign, right? So we might anticipate a lot more volume coming in simply because of all the messages that we're going to receive or interest that we're going to receive in the marketing campaign. So we might want to adjust certain volumes and actually show more incoming volume that we normally would get. Why that would be important? Because then you would also need to adjust the staffing coverage, right? So in the adjustments, let's go into the future here. In the adjustments let's do for tier 1 this time. So actually we already had some options here as well, but let's create a new one. So you can call it as you wish. Campaign Paula. Let's select the date. Let's do, where are we? We're in April 16th. So let's do the April. Let's do April 10th for that whole day. If you wanted to, you can even select the campaign to, the volume adjustment to be applicable only to a certain time throughout the day, not whole day. And here you can change either the percentage or the absolute values. You can also have it positive or negative as well. So for this test, let's do plus 100 and let's save it. It will start crunching numbers, as you can see here. How's everything so far? Oh, I see MJ is already responding. I'll let MJ to respond to that. She's already typing anyways. Okay, so while it's crunching the numbers, I just wanted to reiterate again that this is really useful for any additional scenarios that you might be anticipating coming your way. As I mentioned, you can impact the volumes positively or negatively. And let's give it another moment. Maybe it's the time that I've set, actually. It's both AM. All right. Let's see if we can get back to this one. Oh, changes were saved. There we go. So just wanted to share how it impacted the full volume. And yeah, so you can play around with this. And if you wanted to keep it saved, but you might not want to include it, or you just wanted to see how it could impact your team, you can simply uncheck it and save it again. All right. Okay, so visually it will update in a moment. Let me see. Yep. So now let's go to excluding the outliers. So it might have happened that there was a marketing campaign or there was an outage that happened that really affected how the forecast is projected, right? So you can actually opt to omit that particular day or that event to be included in the forecast. So for this demo, let me select a chat and go back into, I actually added it for February, where I wanted to show you. What date was it? See here, chat, there we go. So for chat, we had an outage here and I wanted to select to really omit that option. There, up. Sorry, I meant to select here the February 9th. Sorry, 8th. So for example, for this moment here, I want to really specify to our algorithm that, hey, that was actually just an outage. It's not a usual volume here. So I would go ahead and save it. And it's crunching the numbers. All right. Let's give it a moment. And now the really important part as well to really build what you need for the forecasting based on your demands, really. So I meant for the staffing parameters. So for each of the work streams as well, you are able to specify certain criteria when it comes to the staffing, right? You can select the occupancy that you would expect for each of the work streams to really achieve, or you can say that certain SLAs for the work streams. You can set the minimum requirement staff and a lot more. And I want to dig into that. Let me just wait for the inbound volumes to finalize. Okay. Crunching. Anyways, here, what I wanted to mention that recently we've launched an option to select a specific channel type for each of the work streams. Now, this would be important, for example, when you're setting differences for chat and other different channels here. For example, for chat, for the staffing parameters, you might need to consider chat duration or concurrency specifically. Whereas for email, concurrency is not going to be important, or for call, concurrency is not going to be important because there's one call at a time that's happening. Whereas chat, you can handle a few at the time. Now, with staffing parameters as well, you are able to set your occupancy. Now, you can think of occupancy as the time that you will have your agents performing actual support activities, right? So usually, the standard is around, and Jose, keep me honest here, around 70 to 80%. Really will depend from business to business, but I'll let Jose to chime in on that one.
Yeah, anywhere from 70 to 85%, depending on how aggressive you want to go and how short the HT is ultimately. But yeah.
Thank you, Jose. Then additional option that you can add here is average handle time. So for average handle time, we have a few options now to think about it. Let me paint the situation. So with average handle time, you can use a static value where you will be able to input, since it's crunching the numbers out, I don't want to really override it, but with a static value, if you wanted to see how much staff you will need for a certain average handle time that you might be aiming for, you can really use this option, and then you will see how many people you will need versus importing and updated, importing your own average handle time. So for example, as well, if you're moving from one system to another, you can really import that as you would with a historical information, or you can use our forecasted average handle time. So you will see a real, an accurate forecasted average handle time based on what actually your agents were able to do. And we're tracking that with time shift, right? We're tracking all the activities that they spend within Zendesk and how much time it actually takes for them to do that. Then this is where you would set your SLA, first response time. So for example, here, you will see that we're targeting for 80% of all the email chats, for all the chats to be responded within the 23 hours. That's really not realistic. So something that might need to change on the demo here. But here you will be able to set, for example, if you wanted to first response time to have a minute or even less than a minute, 30 seconds, you would be able to do that here. Now, shrinkage, you can also input that here. For shrinkage, the standard market value is, and Jose can be honest here again, between 15 to 30%, really will depend.
Exactly. That's pretty much it.
And shrinkage you can think of is a buffer of staff that you need to still kind of keep in mind, and they will be covering all the unplanned activities, right? Like tardiness, somebody didn't show up due to illness, or attrition might happen as well. So this here will also affect your staffing needs. Then the other option here is the minimum staffing. So here you will be able to say, even if the volume is very low, at a certain time or for a certain work stream, you might want to actually opt to have, even if the volume is zero, you want to say, I want to have 3 people no matter what, because of the commitments that I have or the critical mass that I want to cover just in case. So you will be able to input that here. And availability here is basically a segment where you will be able to say that my live channel, such as chat or voice, is only operational between these hours. So we will take into consideration these hours. And then when it comes to distributing the staff, we will be able to take that into consideration and really distribute the staff into the schedule accordingly so we could meet the SLA that you have set here. So once you're happy with everything that is set, you can save, and basically then, based on the forecast and the staffing needs, you will be able to move to the next step, which is scheduling. And Josette, sorry for taking so much time, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paula. I don't know if we have any questions we want to address before I go into the scheduling piece. I see that Benny is asking if would we be able to forecast including the reopen tickets volume. Suppose you have a high rate of emails that reopen. So this is something that we are currently not doing, but we are already starting the conversations on how to actually deal with that. Pretty much deal with backlog where it should be dealt with. I mean, like you receive a ticket here, but it might generate a tail that generates work for about a week or a month, let's say, depending on the companies and the complexity of what we have currently defined in terms of processes. William, should we bump shrinkage up if we don't have people working on the weekends? Or is there a way to add that we don't have people working on the weekends? Okay, so I guess this will touch the point of opening hours, which is also something that we are working on our roadmap to define specific working hours per day of the week. Not even just being closed on certain days, but like having different schedules per day of the week. I don't know, MJ, you were writing. I don't know if you want to expand on that. I will jump into the scheduling piece, and then I come back for questions if we feel like we need to touch this topic again. Okay. Okay. So yeah, bear with me. Share screen. Okay, I can share a tab. Forecast. Okay, guys, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we're seeing your forecast.
Okay, I'm starting at where pretty much where Polly was. Let me just put you guys here so I can keep seeing you. So why did Polly go to all this trouble to generate forecast, to adjust the forecast, to sort of like clean outliers outside of the forecast, to include shrinkage whenever she is generating FTE needs? The idea for this is to go to the next step in terms of the workforce management cycle, which is to have a solid base for you to schedule upon. And this takes me conveniently to the tool itself, and I will move in to scheduling. So I guess in terms of the general view of the scheduling piece, this is what we have. So up top, we have schedules, the hours of the day, the way that you see your agents is either by group, team, location, or even all agents. You can quickly, with the Control or Command F, search for an agent. Searching for myself, very narcissistic. But I want to start by focusing on what's below, because it's, for me, what connects best to what Polly did in terms of work. So here below, we have a summary table of all the work streams that we have, the hours of the day, and pretty much currently the schedule staffing that we have per interval. Let's say I go here to, I don't know, 11:30 a.m., I can see the requirements in terms of each one of the groups compared to what I have scheduled, and what's the net requirements. But this is not the only thing you can see. You can actually change the view to have something that you feel is more useful. Either you want just to see the required stuff at any given point of the day, you can change that here below. Or you can even want to see net staffing, like the over-under reports that we all love and hate so much, where you can see by interval of the day and by each one of your tiers, what's your current net staffing. Let's say you are over what you needed, you are under what you needed, and by how many FTEs, right? Moving a bit to another option that we have here, which is the chart view. As I don't have any work stream selected, I'm seeing like a small chart for each one of the work streams that I have, but I can sort of like zoom in, let's say in chat, and see how I am at any given point in the day. I can see my schedule, I can see my requirements, and I can see my requirements including shrinkage. But the ones that we need to compare is net to net. So scheduled and required will give us the result that we want to see. Will help us understand, for example, here in tier 2, whether or not our requirements go over what we have scheduled, and we can see that that happens here and here, but overall for the rest of the day we are okay. So maybe it's a matter of pushing some schedules earlier, or maybe you can change people to tier 2. This is something that we can do by looking at this. Another thing that it allows you to do, I'll move again to the scheduled ones, actually to the net staffing, because I would prefer to see it like that. You can, instead of that, select and see per general task at any given point what you have scheduled for each one of those. Like how many people should I have in lunch at the current point in time? So you can look in your CRM and sort of compare and understand if people are doing that, or actually you can go inside of Timesheet and use some of the reports we have to search for that. I won't diverge because I want to keep focused on scheduling today, but we can definitely touch those points in the future. But one of the things that we were discussing, okay, I was seeing somewhere in tier 2, I believe, going back to our visibility over the over-under, that I have 7.5 hours of difference at 8 a.m. For example, I have here Stefan, that was starting at 10:45, and I can go to his schedule, just right-click and edit the start and end times of his schedule. So I will put him working a bit earlier. Not sorry, but you will have to come in a bit earlier today. And let's say I will not make him work so many times, so many hours, I say. So let me put it PM, maybe, I don't know, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 4:46. Let's give it 4:45 actually, sorry. And you can see it has a 9-hour length in terms of shift, and it will be reflected in terms of needs also below. It was working tier 1, I can move it to tier 2 quickly and actually cover a gap that I had there. And once this is done and the system processes it, you will see that it will update our needs here below, right? See, it was -7.5, -7. You can do this and add a couple of schedules in order for you to be able to cover the needs that you have at any given point in time. So this allows you also to grab a certain shift and actually say, I want to start this shift, and I want to start this shift with, sorry, I messed it up. I want to start this shift and add a new task. Let's say starting of this task would be 3 a.m. and we will say it's going to be 1 hour, and he's going to start with a meeting because, I don't know, we want to discuss the plan for the day. We can definitely do that, and it will be as quickly as you see here. So in order of the views that we are seeing, maybe what you want to see something spread more across the future. Do you want to see the week? You have two ways of actually doing that. You can come here and say, I want to see this week. And instead of seeing the schedules for a day, you can see what is actually happening for the rest of the week. And even if you want to see more of a monthly view, you have a visibility over that also here. Another way of going back and forth would be to double click the time bar. It will take you from a daily view to sort of a weekly view. But I will go back to the daily view, which is more zoomed in and actually what I want to see. Go back to today. Let it load. Our schedules for today. This, if you think about it, also in terms of flexibility, you might have, I don't know, either a BPO working with you or different teams that are planned, maybe, I don't know, in the older way, which we should not name, meaning Excel spreadsheets. You also have the possibility of importing the schedules here and actually exporting these schedules in terms of if you want to share them internally or if you want to have a drive where anyone can even if they don't have access to Timeshift, access these schedules. This will also allow you to, for example, let's say you have your vacation approval process or your time off approval process coming from your HR tools. It would allow you also to create quickly and efficiently here after the vacations are approved there or whatever the process it is that you have in place, quickly import them into Timeshift where you can have it reflect in terms of capacity planning, in terms of future number of people that you're going to have for any given day. Stopping right here. I am not seeing the chat, but I don't know if you have any questions so far.
We just had one come in that MJ jumped on as far as our agents seeing the schedule right inside of Zendesk. So yes.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. It's on my list of things to go through. Okay, so we'll definitely touch that topic. If you see, I will then after change to my Zendesk tab. I have it open here, so that I can go over that specific case. Okay, so I guess we can also here generate schedules in different ways. You can generate schedules for the whole team. You can generate schedules for an agent. Let's say I want to add a shift and I want that shift to be added. Oh, let me think. We would create a shift. Shift here. Oh, sorry. My bad. There we go. For example, we can create this per team, or you can actually come here and actually do it by group, by location, or even to all agents. If you don't want all agents, you can, for example, just select yourself in this case and generate a shift for this specific agent. Good. So moving on to the next step, which would be, okay, I'm adding here shifts that seem to be pre-built. So how do I actually build them? This is found on locations. So if you go to locations, this is the view that you're going to have with your several locations where you can add and edit your specific locations. One of the things that we've seen, and I will go back here, is that when I was searching by myself at the beginning, I've just noticed that I have a red, I don't know, triangle saying that I don't have a location. Because before this meeting, I actually took out my location or took myself away from a location so that I could go through the process of re-attributing and showing you how this is done. So going back to the locations piece and going to Lisbon, that's where I'm located. you can pretty much have the possibility of defining the time zone of the location, if it's open 24/7, or if you want to give it specific opening hours, which is something that we were touching previously in terms of what would happen on the forecast. Here, you can also define that. You can define the minimum and maximum scheduled hours per week, the number of consecutive work days, the number of consecutive days off, and the minimum days between the minimum of hours between shifts. If we move on to the tab of the shifts, this is where you have a lot of powerful things that you can do. I will create a shift for myself within Lisbon. You have pretty much three main options. So an automatic shift, where pretty much you need to be comfortable having time shifts algorithm deciding the starting time for each shift. You can create some constraints, tests. I will create one just to show you. Okay, and let's add shifts. You can add here the name of the shift, again, the name of the intraday variant, I mean, and whether or not you want to allow for max difference between starting times and how much the shift length should be. You can also go here and generate and create your general tasks that you have, such as breaks, lunches. This is something that can be configured here. I will try, for example, creating break. I want the break to be, I don't know, 1 hour and a half after the beginning of the shift, and anywhere to 2 hours and a half after the beginning of the shift. Okay, so let's configure that. I want the breaks duration to be 15 minutes. That's already done. So as you see, it creates a window on where this can happen, anywhere from 1 hour and a half after the beginning of the shift to 2 hours and a half. Then if you want to add, let's say, a lunch break would be somewhere 3 hours after the beginning of the shift to 5 hours, depending obviously on each country's rules. It would be 1 hour. So again, you have the window in white, and you have the task that you will attribute in blue, which will be generated somewhere in that white space, right? Again, adding afternoon break, let's say, creating the afternoon break to be, I don't know, to create it. Let me just check something here. It can be created 5 hours and a half after the beginning of shift to anywhere to 6 hours and a half. Okay, after the beginning of the shift. Okay, so done that, configured, can save it. Oh, sorry, forgot to add the duration, my bad. 15 minutes, and this can be 16. It can be, I don't know, 27, whatever you feel like. By the minute, you can configure. So, like, minute adjustments is the thing. Thank you, MJ, for creating that. Again, I left it at plus minus 2 hours. It's still all here. Another thing that you can create, so we created this automatic schedule. I will not leave it here for now. This will basically use time shifts algorithm and the data you have in the forecast to design the best spread of schedules in order for you to be able to cover the maximum as possible your requirements. Okay. I will delete this just not to leave too much junk here on our testing account. Also, you can create a fixed shift, which again, test fixed, Jesus, shift. Here you have the same options. You can create an intraday variant either for one day, like you can create one for Monday, one for Tuesday, Wednesday, so on. Or you can create Monday to Friday. Let's say you have closed opening hours, which is your opening hours. And you, let's say, are open from 8 a.m. to, I don't know, 5 p.m., I would say. Can do this and just, again, define the intraday task that you want for a shift should be fairly easy. Let me just, I will keep the same as the ones that we have configured before. 1.5, 2.5 hours, 15 minutes duration, and I will add same for the afternoon break, which will be 5.5, I think, but that's what I put, to 6.5 hours after the beginning of the shift, right? Again, I want the duration to be 15 minutes. Then just missing a lunch break. Lunch break, I want it to be anywhere from 3 to 5 hours so that we have a good spread of lunches and no one is complaining that they are going to lunch after their supposed time. Okay. Again, this allows you to, after creating the shift, associating users to it. Let's say, oh, sorry, I will associate this shift to me, for example, and it should be done. One other thing that we can create is a rotation folder. Okay. Don't worry, this is getting confusing, but I will clean out anything that we don't need afterwards. Here, it's pretty much you can allow it to rotate every 1 week, or you can rotate it every 2-3 weeks, and then you can create rotation patterns, right? So let's say every 3 weeks, save it. Let's create, sorry, rotation rules. Nothing wrong. Rotation cycles, January 2022. Okay. Rotate patterns inside this shift. And you can sort of, let's say, add my, sorry, I said something here. Plus, not being able to, sorry, select here. Can you ungroup this? Yes. But basically, you can select that and rotate between shifts. I was not being able to do it right now, and I'm also a bit pressed on time, but I can come back on this or record the video doing this. But I'm thinking, I'm looking at the time and we have 3 minutes and I want to go over work streams still. And forecast versus actual. So basically here, this allows you to create and attribute certain shifts or shift patterns / rotations to given agents. Going back to the shifts, to the schedule, I mean, you can go to my agents and attribute and generate, for example, here a schedule for me, which will be generated considering the patterns of the schedule that I created for myself. This will allow you then to select within the shifts that you have. You can select all of the work streams that are attributed to your person, which, as Polly showed recently, you just go to work streams, select one, signed users, and then you can search here, let's say, and add myself to billing, for example. I would apply, and then going back to the scheduling piece, you will be able to select that whenever you're changing parts of the schedule. Okay. I will stop briefly for a moment. I think we'll go over time for a bit because I just want to go over one more option, which is how do you see after the fact if you've done the right decisions, if you adjusted yourself correctly to what you need. So we have this nifty little tool which is called forecast versus actuals, where you see pretty much a table of a day. It's loading, okay? It's at this moment per hour, but you can select 30, 15 minutes intervals, and also can select what you want to see here. You can select one work stream, all work streams, as you feel it adapts to you. here you can see a couple of things. You can see the inbound in terms of volumes, the forecast, actuals, and actuals versus your short-term forecast. Short-term forecast is forecast that is generating later in time, and that it generates for a shorter period of time, and it should be more efficient than the long-term forecast. Then in terms of scheduling of staffing, you can see required versus schedule and actual staffing that you have, and then the comparison between each one of those to understand if you were over, if you were under. Afterwards, you can also look into schedule into AHD. So AHD that was forecasted against what actual AHD was, to understand, okay, maybe you forecasted for some volume and you hit the volume, you forecast for a certain amount of people and you hit that amount of people, but you still missed your service level targets. Why? It may be that your forecast AHD was off, either over what you had initially estimated. In this case, we see actually the opposite, where you see your AHD, your actual AHD was about 10 minutes less than what you had forecasted for. Then you can look into actual SLA and understand how many periods you missed or met in terms of service level achievement. Cool. Questions? Okay, so just the last piece I want to touch just before we go is agent view. So in Zendesk, let's say you are here in your Zendesk account. You are here in your Zendesk account, seeing each one of your views, touching tickets and whatnot. You will see this time shift button to your left. When you click it, you'll see the schedules that are published for your user. And actually, I will go back and I will go back to schedules and actually publish my schedules for that specific day. Because I haven't, I just generated the schedules, didn't publish them. Now I will publish them. I will publish anyway with errors, just for the sake of seeing the information on the other side. And we'll refresh it. Oh, seems like I'm working a long shift. Here you're allowed basically to select.
Jose, I think you're still doing your time shift view, not the Zendesk one.
Oh, thank you. So going back into Zendesk, thank you, Paula. You are able to select and request time off. The agent is able to select a shift and say, I don't know, I have my room on fire because my dog needs an electricity cable, let's say. Hopefully that's not the case, but you can request it. It stays pending approval from your manager. And also you can request here shift trades. You can request to trade a given shift that you have, let's say on the 12th. And sorry. I don't know why I'm not seeing my shift on the 12th. On the 10th. Maybe because, check something. Ooh. God. My room on fire, but I'm not being able to shift, to trade my shift, which I don't know why, because I've had an issue. This generated the shift. Well, just do something here. There we go. Sorry, guys, I'm just correcting this here. Because I didn't publish the schedule, so that was my point. In the time being, I don't know if we have any questions so far. I know we are a bit over time.
No questions so far, Jose.
Okay. This was the last part of the shift rates. I made an error creating the shifts, but basically, because this shift starts on a day and finishes on the other, but I will correct that again. And here you are allowed basically to select the shift that you have and make it available for trade. You can either select everyone, you can select someone in your location, or even just within your team, or if you want to do a direct trade, you can select the user that's present on this team. Sorry, guys, I know I was too much over time. How far off are we? 6 minutes. Any questions so far? See a lot of chat conversation.
Feel free to throw those questions in. And yes, we are a little over time, but some key things came up in the chat. So Paule mentioned a few minutes ago that you can add your suggestions to our interactive roadmap. You'll see a link there, so be sure to click through. You can take a look at the roadmap itself and go ahead and add anything that you would like to see that you think maybe we're missing. Also, a couple of things that we highlighted today are in early access. So if you'd like more information on our early access programs, MJ went ahead and threw a link in the chat as well. So feel free to click through so that you can take a look at what's in early access and what's coming out very, very soon. So if anything you're not seeing on your account today, that might be the reason. So take a look at those links. Also reach out to support@timeshift.com if you have any more questions as well. And I think on that note, MJ said one more thing. The monthly view for schedules is coming for everybody next week. So super, super exciting news on that. All righty, folks. Well, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. We'll go ahead and wrap it up, but please, please, please send over any additional questions that you have. Check out our webinars page in case you would like to dig in a couple weeks into some hot tips and tricks. And we'll look forward to talking to everybody soon. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Have a great day.
Thanks
Thanks
everyone.
everyone.